Welcome to Satsang.
Hello, Vishrant. Can you please talk about today's topic, what you're not doing to make your relationship work?
Relationships are hard because people are so different. But what makes a relationship work is when you decide to be in service to the other rather than just trying to get something from the other. When two people who are just trying to get something from the other, love, acceptance, whatever, it's like two beggars getting together. What really, really works is when two people come together and they serve each other. They serve each other and they serve the relationship. And this is what works. Just wanting it to be your way, just wanting to get something for yourself from the relationship, that level of selfishness basically doesn't work. It destroys relationships. That's the kind of relationship you probably had with your mum and dad when you were a child. You were just there to get something from them. And you haven't matured enough yet to go into an adult relationship which is about giving, not about taking. I think a relationship with one giver in it will work, but a relationship with two people in it who just want to take, that's going to doom for failure from the beginning. And a relationship that's beautiful is a relationship where two people serve each other and they serve the relationship. Okay? Are there any questions? Any statements? Any challenges to this teaching today?
The first question is, I often feel unappreciated by my partner. I feel like I'm the only one putting in effort to make it work. How do I get over this feeling?
Well, it's not really about getting over the feeling. It's about dealing with the situation. You don't sound like you're getting your needs met inside the relationship. It doesn't seem to be an equal relationship where two people are putting in. It sounds like you're putting in and the other is not, and so you're feeling left out. Now, it's possible to make this relationship work if you're willing to accept that. But if you'd like to move to some form of change, you could try talking to your partner and telling them what you see and what you feel and seeing how they react to that, how they respond to that. Because communication in relationship is one of two things that really hold it together, the other being commitment. But if there isn't communication, if you're not talking, if you're not telling your partner what's going on for you, well, in fact, you're failing because you're failing to communicate. And so have a talk. Sit down and have a talk somewhere where you won't be interrupted. And so you can put your case out and they can put theirs out and you can come to some kind of understanding. Or if you're not happy with what's there, find someone else to be with. It's up to you.
Is it more conducive for higher consciousness to have a partner who's into higher consciousness, or one that triggers me a lot so that I can surrender?
Yeah, it's very difficult to be in a relationship with someone who's not into higher consciousness if you are. I'd say it's almost impossible because they're not going to understand what you're about. And you're going to change as your consciousness levels grow, and they are not. And so it's very difficult. It's always best to be in the company of people going in the same direction as you, rather than being in the company of people who are going in a different direction. It's difficult for seekers because they are going in a certain direction, and the world isn't going to understand them, and their partner might not either. Climbing higher consciousness requires clarity. It requires the healing of the wounds of the heart. It requires a level of acceptance that is way higher than the norm. And as you do these things, as you practice openness, as you practice being more present to reality, as you practice watching your mind, your consciousness levels rise. And unfortunately, you can tend to leave people behind because of this. This is just how it is. So in a lot of ways, seekers tend to be a bit lonely, a little bit isolated, unless they actually do have a partner or a community that they're in where people are going in the same direction.
The next question is complying the same as serving?
No, it's not. Serving, you serve the other because you love the other. You want to help them. You want to make their life easier. You're not complying because you want to get along. You're serving because you want to serve because you love this person. You want to see them have a better life. You have compassion and empathy for them because you love them. Service is very beautiful when it comes from love. Compliance, just to get along, is a business deal. It's not really love. But you'll have to have a look and see, what are you doing inside your relationship? Are you serving or are you complying? If you're complying, it's probably to get acceptance because you want something. In that acceptance, maybe you don't want to be abandoned. Maybe there's financial difficulties. I don't know. Relationships become beautiful when service from love is involved.
The next question from a viewer reads, when someone becomes toxic, I try to let go. It is so hard to let go. Can you please comment?
Yeah, because you're probably primarily bonded with this person, which isn't love. A lot of people mistake it for love, but it's what happens when we get together with people, whether they're family members or partners or even our parents, or sometimes employees and sometimes bosses. We get primarily bonded to them, which is a survival mechanism that comes with the mind and body for the protection and the production of the species. And so primal bonding is a very big part in any relationship, and it quite often is very difficult to let go of that because it's not rational. It just hangs on no matter what. This is very different than love, because love just loves. It doesn't hang on to anything. Love doesn't take prisoners, but the mind will, to protect itself from feeling something. If we're primarily bonded to someone and that primal bonding is threatened, we feel like we're losing something, we're attracted to protect it. This is how it works to survive us as a species. It keeps us together in groups. in tribes, in families. It keeps children with parents. It keeps parents with children. This is just natural. This is not unnatural, but it's not necessarily love. Love can be involved also, but not all the time. Understanding primal bonding lets you understand why you can't let go. You're kind of connected for the protection of the clan. Note on that, if primal bonding wasn't there, people may abandon their children and not protect them. They may abandon their parents and not protect them. They might abandon their friends and not protect them. Primal bonding allows protection. That's what it's for. It's a survival mechanism.
The next question has been written by Carmina. I'm grateful for this satsang. Immense gratitude from the bottom of my heart. My question is how to bring alignment to my thoughts with emotions.
How to bring what, sorry?
How to bring alignment to my thoughts with emotions.
I'm not understanding the problem. I'm sorry. You're asking how do you bring alignment with thoughts and emotions. I'm not understanding the problem. They can exist at the same time without any problem. So maybe if you put the question in a way where you're indicating what's not working for you.
Next, we have a question from Interpol.
Hello.
Hi, Vishrant. How are you doing?
Well, I'm always pretty much high as a kite, actually.
That's great. That's great. So question here. You've talked about belief systems and, the root cause of some of our behaviors are our belief systems. And it seems as though in some of my belief systems or looking at triggers, I have okey-doked myself into thinking, oh, that's not a problem anymore until, the next time it triggers. So can you elaborate a little bit on your experience? I'm not sure if this is true for you, but it's true for me that I have some very resistant belief systems.
It's because they're supported. A belief system has a whole pile of supporting belief systems. And so you undo the major belief system, but there'll be other belief systems that are like tentacles on an octopus that are actually propping it up, protecting it, justifying it. And those belief systems haven't been undone yet. So you've had a go at the main belief system, but the supports to it haven't been undone so it can resurrect itself. The supports quite often show up as justifications. And so I'll give you an example. Most people have a belief system that their partner shouldn't abandon them or betray them. We'll say betray. And that belief system can cause a lot of pain because of resistance if that occurs. Someone betrays inside a relationship and there's a strong belief they shouldn't do that. And people murder each other over this stuff. This is one of the belief systems that I challenged and removed a long, long time ago because I didn't like it and I was with women who weren't that trustworthy. So I found myself feeling that particular wounding around that a fair bit because of the belief system had caused wounding in me. So I challenged the belief system, undid it, put doubt in it. Why should Why shouldn't they betray me? You know, in God's big picture of everything, why shouldn't they betray me? So I put doubt in it. But then I found justifications for it. Justifications like, well, it's not fair, which hits you on injustice wounding. Nobody else is doing it. I don't betray them. So you got to look at all the little things that hold that belief system in place, that keep it solid. It's difficult. Undoing a major belief system is difficult because it's backed up. And it's probably backed up with society's understandings as well. Like most of the people you know would agree that people shouldn't betray each other. But unfortunately, it's human nature to do that. And so that belief system is out of touch with reality. Because you betray. Everyone betrays. Not necessarily physically, but in their minds. And so it's a good one to remove. And that way, when you do get betrayed, if someone does betray you, nothing moves in you. You stay equanimous because you've undone the belief system that has an expectation on it that you shouldn't be betrayed. But to do that, you really have to find all the sub-beliefs and all the little supports, the justifications that belief system has. And they need to be undone too.
For sure. For sure. There are a lot of supports to some of these things on multiple levels, but so just continue looking at it, I suppose, and just,
Well, if you get caught, the support belief system will show itself because it'll be there. It'll be justifying why you're caught. It'll be justifying the position.
Right.
There is another thing to remember, that if you do get betrayed, even though you've taken away the belief system that you shouldn't be betrayed, it will hurt. And so if there isn't a willingness to meet that touch, to meet that hurt, well, that's a problem also.
How do you meet the hurt?
Well, first of all, you've got to own it. It's your hurt. Nobody created that hurt for you. You created it. You actually have to take responsibility that you make yourself feel that other people can't actually make you feel. And this is a high level of maturity when you look at it. I'm responsible for my feelings, not the world, not someone else, me. So when someone betrays me and it touches, I created that touch. They didn't do it. But what we tend to do in our society is we blame the other person for the touch. Oh, you've hurt me. No, they didn't hurt you. You hurt yourself. You created the pain. And if you're willing to be with that pain, if you're willing to feel that pain without going to blame, well, that works really well.
Okay. And the deeper it seems that you go with some of these support structures around these beliefs, I found that the ego wants to hold on a little bit more.
Heck yeah, because it's trying to survive. The ego is simply a survival mechanism. People like to think of it as something greater than that, but it's not really. It does everything to micromanage so it can survive. Let go or acceptance is against that. So let go and acceptance are against nature. It is natural to defend yourself. It is natural to try and survive. But higher consciousness pretty much demands that you actually don't survive, that you defeat the survival mechanism by practicing surrender, acceptance, letting go. Someone who's awake has flatlined. They've let go. They've surrendered unconditionally. And when you really examine that, that's a non-doing, which means they've died. They've killed the defense system, the survival defense system.
Okay.
See, it's not easy. It's just there's nothing better to do. There is nothing.
Yeah, I can't argue with that.
There's nothing better to do but raise your consciousness levels, because lower consciousness is where people hurt themselves. It's where they get into all this trouble because they're dreaming. And they're dreaming that they're victims of this or victims of that, and they're hurting themselves because they're offering resistance to what is. In higher consciousness, you don't do that. You don't offer resistance to what is, because you're not into hurting yourself.
Right. Yeah, it's fascinating just the levels that this is on. You know, on one level or on a certain level, you think you've handled it, and then you go a little bit to a deeper level, and it's like lather, rinse, repeat all over again. And so, but that's okay. I guess I'm going to like washing my hair.
Well, it's just how it is. But as I was saying before, there's no other game in town that's worth playing. The game of higher consciousness is the game that can set you free. It's the game that can stop you suffering. It's the game that allows you to see the big picture rather than being caught in small little dreams.
I love it. Okay, I'll keep playing.
Nice to talk to you.
Likewise.
The next question is a follow-up from Carmena's question about aligning thoughts with emotions.
Okay.
They write, intellectually, I'm understanding that service is the highest form of being human, but I feel self-centered and I think about myself more than how others feel. Can you comment on this?
Yeah, well, that's animal level of existence, because that's survival level of existence. But because we're intelligent, we can go beyond that. Animals don't tend to be able to go beyond that. Some do. Some dogs can. But human beings, because of their intelligence, can go beyond selfishness. They can go beyond self. The I itself can be let go of, can be put aside for the benefit of others. But this has to be practiced. It's not something that happens that naturally, because naturally we're just a survival mechanism and selfishness is natural. To actually put yourself aside for the benefit of others, particularly strangers, in a way goes against nature. We're programmed to take care of ourselves. We're programmed to survive. But we don't have to. We can actually start pursuing love. And love is so beautiful. It's perceived in openness. It's so beautiful that when we start perceiving love, we become willing to take care of everyone and everything. We become willing to put ourselves aside for the benefit of others. And selfishness gets left behind, the I gets left behind. And you've moved into a life of service because that's what you want to do, because that's how love has affected your mind. But if you want to experience love, you've got to open up. You can't expect to experience a great deal of love while you're closed and defended. Those filters are in the way of the perception of love. This is why quite often I'll say that openness counts for everything, because it supports love. It also supports higher consciousness, because if you practice openness, you have to remove all the things that are in the way of higher consciousness too. And it also supports enlightenment, because you have to remove all the obstacles and the things that are in the way of that also. But it's up to you. You can remain selfish for the rest of your life, no one's going to stop you. Or you can see the point, start practicing openness, find love, and it just affects you in such a way that you just want to take care of others. You want to make them feel good. You want to do betterment for them rather than yourself. Love is the true jewel of consciousness. But it's up to you to find it. It's up to you to perceive it. It's up to you to take away your defenses, take away the obstacles, the closures, the resistances that are in the way of the perception of love.
Next, you have a question from Neil.
Hello, Vishrant.
Hello.
So, is there a way to identify whether a person who's with us, are they with us to get something out of us, or do they truly love us?
I'm sorry, you're coming through a little bit muffled. Can you repeat yourself, please?
Is there a way to identify if a person who's with us, do they truly love us, or are they there to get something out of us, like money?
I understand. Is there a way to identify it? Look. Quite often when people get together, particularly men and women or couples, it's like they're getting together, they're attracted to sexually, which is very primal. And there's this feeling they want to be with the other, which is also primal. It's kind of the honeymoon stage. And the truth is there's not that much love there. They actually do want something from the other. Love at first sight is just primal programming, you know. It's probably not real love. Real love is very different in that it just wants to... Love itself doesn't do anything except love. It doesn't have another thing to do. People love to project onto love that it does a whole pile of things, but it doesn't. It just loves. And so when people get together, quite often they want something for themselves because they're attracted and they want to be with that person because it makes them feel good. And so that's pretty natural, really. And then love can grow. Love can grow because you're open with that person, and because of the openness, love appears, and it affects the mind, and you want to take care, you want to serve this other person. But the key is love. Not sexuality, not primal bonding, not love at first sight because of the hormones that come into play when you first meet someone who excites you. But those things can lead to love. They put you in a position where you can open up enough to perceive love and truly love the other and move into service of the other. Okay?
Okay. And do you have a checklist of things that one should look for before bringing someone to our lives?
No.
Uh-huh.
Because I never know. I never know what I'm going to meet with a person. People are amazing creatures. They can change in a moment. No, it's not a good idea to have a checklist, because then you're ruling out so many people and so many possibilities. Why not just be open and see what happens? It's like taking a walk on the wild side. Otherwise, what you're trying to do is just make it so safe that you kill it.
And I've got one more question. There are people in my life who borrow money from me, and they will come up with something like, it's urgent, I need some money, and I give it to them. And the thing is, it's really hard to get it back from them. And even if they give it back, after a while, they will come back again asking for more money. So how do I deal with these kinds of people?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I've had some pretty interesting situations where people have borrowed money and haven't given it back, or it's been hard to get back. And so I developed a policy a long time ago. If I loan someone some money for any reason whatsoever, in my mind, it's a gift. If they give it back, well, that's nice. But in my mind, it's a gift because I've already written it off. Because if we become debt collectors, we destroy our friendships. And the other thing is, I tend to not loan money to people Because I don't want to have that problem. I don't want to lose a friend because of money.
Right.
Because if they don't want to pay it back or something like that, they start to hide from you.
That's exactly what happened.
So if I have to, I give it. And if they give it back, nice. But if they don't, that's nice too.
Okay. All right. All right. Got it. Thank you. Thank you, Vishrant.
Nice to talk to you.
Next, we have a question from Marcus.
Hello, Marcus.
Hey, Vishrant. All right, so I'm in my first relationship ever. So I have quite a few questions here. The first one is, I noticed a pattern that whenever we get into an argument, it seems that she raises her voice at me, but on the other hand, what I tend to do is I'm very silent about things. And she says that affects her the same way that yelling affects me.
Yeah. You know why that is?
Why?
She's feeling like she's not being heard because you're not acknowledging her.
Mm-hmm.
There's someone else there, is there?
It's me.
That was good. Yeah, it's like you go silent and she feels like she's not being heard and she feels hurt by that. It feels like you're blocking communication by your silence. And when she raises her voice, she's raising her voice because she doesn't feel like she's being heard also. She doesn't feel like she's being understood. Otherwise, she wouldn't do that. There's a reason why people do things.
Right.
You know, if you really want your relationship to work, you find a way to cherish this woman all the time. And when you cherish a woman, they feel loved and they feel understood and they feel cared for. But when we get into arguments with them and they don't feel cherished and it doesn't work, it kind of makes the relationship stale. If you're lucky enough to have someone in your life that you can love, this is one of the greatest gifts you can have for yourself. Because when you love someone, that is such a lovely feeling for you to love them. So why not cherish them? Why not cherish them? Why not serve them?
Right.
Is she nodding in agreement right now?
She's been the whole time.
It took me a long time to learn this stuff. If you've got someone to love, you're very lucky because love is so beautiful. It is the only thing on this plane that's really worth anything. And if we can love someone, that's so sweet. But when we do love someone, we want to take care of them. We want to serve them. And if she's not feeling heard, she's not being cherished. You need to cherish her. You need to make her feel like she's being heard by maybe answering what she's saying in a way that she feels like she is being heard.
Hey, Vishrant, it's me. My name is Nadia. Nice to talk to you. He watches you all the time. And I actually say that this is the realm of heart, because if you rearrange the letters of earth, you get heart. And I say that we are in the middle grounds of this realm. And if you look around, one of the main colors you see for the source of our life is green, just like the heart chakra. So it's like we're all here to serve heart so we can transcend and ascend back into our highest, lightest form.
Yeah, that's nice. And I feel at heart is the way. You see, when we talk about enlightenment, the mind has to be in love with truth for it to surrender unconditionally to truth and give its life to truth. That's why people wake up. They give their life to truth, or God, or whatever you want, beingness, whatever you want to call it. They give their life to it. And that can only be done in a love affair.
And another thing is that I was reading your book, and the part on relationships, you bring up how wanting to be right does not support like unity and peace. Because my comeback to her would be like, oh, my silence isn't directed towards you. I'm just trying to like process and mellow out and stuff like that. But I do find that is trying to be right.
Because you were talking to me first, I was telling you what you needed to do. You needed to be aware that she's not feeling heard. From her perspective, she probably needs to know that your silence doesn't necessarily mean you're not listening. There's two sides to this coin.
Right.
That's true.
One last thing was I was not interested in chakras at all. I'm still kind of like half in, half out on them, but she brought it to my awareness that what I experienced may be like a throat chakra blockage because I don't talk that much.
And you get like
I wanted to know.
sore.
Yeah, my neck be sore.
Okay, I can tell you right now that your throat is open. It's just that parts of your mind are defensive and you use the silence to take the time to check things out. That's a defense mechanism. When listening to you, I can feel your throat chakra. It's not closed, but part of your mind is. Okay? Yeah, you don't come across as someone who's got a closed throat chakra, but you've got a mind that's being careful and you use silence to check things out in. But unfortunately, that comes across as you're not listening.
I see. And one last question about spiritual bypassing. How can that be manifested in an argument?
Oh, very easy. Spiritual bypassing. People do it so often. They'll use spiritual things like something they do upsets someone else, and they go, "Yeah, but you should be accepting this right now. I accept everything. You should accept everything." And so they're using spiritual understandings to manipulate and control arguments. Tricky. Because you can. There's lots of different forms of spiritual bypassing, but quite often spiritual bypassing is just escaping, using spirituality to escape feeling something or escape being responsible for something. We need to own everything. If we want to raise our consciousness levels, we need to have the maturity to own everything, be responsible for everything. And that's a bit of an ask because our society doesn't really teach maturity. In fact, our society teaches selfishness, which is a form of immaturity. You have a look at the society. It's crazy. We don't live in a very mature society. People turn themselves into victims of everything, not taking responsibility for themselves, blaming other people, blaming situations for how they feel. That's immaturity. Mature adults actually take care of everyone and everything. That's what it means to be a mature adult. You take responsibility and you make it work. It took me a long time to learn that too.
All right. All right. And one more thing is popping up, but abandonment, wounding. I deal with that. I didn't know what that was either prior to this relationship.
Congratulations. You, you must be primarily bonded with this lady, and when it gets threatened, when the relationship gets threatened, you get to feel the wounding, huh? And it kind of I discovered this in myself because I had a lot of abandonment issues when I was young. I did get abandoned a fair bit as a child, and I had a lot of wounding around it. And I realized this, and I was only 19 when I realized it. There was this if I get abandoned, there's this huge black feeling in my chest that really felt awful. And I decided I'd never, ever, ever tell a woman I had that wounding, because I figured I could be controlled by it. And so I hid it for years from people. I pretended that I didn't get touched by abandonment, you know. And then I decided, no, that's not the way to deal with this. The way to deal with this is to heal it, is to actually allow yourself to feel what's there and heal what's there. And so instead of using coping mechanisms to avoid being abandoned and selling out to get along, that's a possibility as well, I decided to heal it. And you heal your wounding by feeling it. And so when someone abandons you and it touches you and you feel that wounding, you allow yourself to feel it. You don't try to escape it. You don't look for comfort. You just allow it to be there. And you hold it in tenderness so it can heal. This is a big ask, by the way. This is a big ask.
Thank you, Vishrant.
Yeah. Now that she knows you've got abandonment wounding, she knows how to manipulate and control you. All she's got to do is threaten that a little bit, and you'll probably, toe the line. But now this has been put out on the table, it's going to be harder for her to do that.
Oh, we talk all about this. Since this is actually how we got together, was through raising our consciousness levels. That was our first meeting interaction. Yeah.
Well, one of the things that I learned when I was quite young is you never ever manipulate people with their wounding, because it's a form of cruelty. And it is possible. You can manipulate people through their wounding. As a matter of fact, a lot of people do that, but it's just cruel. And you never do it. You never do it.
Thank you very much.
Nice to chat to both of you.
Nice to talk to you finally.
The next question is from a viewer. Do you suggest to communicate my emotions to my partner?
Can you say that again, Tosh?
Do you suggest to communicate my emotions to my partner?
It depends a great deal on why you're doing it. Why are you wanting to communicate your emotions to your partner? See, there's different reasons that people do that. I believe that communication is really, really important in relationships. Without it, relationships fail. But we can also use our emotionality to try to manipulate and control other people. And that's not such a pretty thing to do. So I'd be interested in knowing, why would you want to be showing your emotions to your partner? There's nothing wrong with doing it, but what's your intention?
The next question has been written by a viewer. Sometimes we need to accept the relationships go wrong sometimes. There's a chance for both to think, reflect, and grow, allowing the time and not to rush to make any decision. That was my experience recently. looks like it's just a statement.
Okay. That's a statement.
The next question is serving the same as taking care of someone's external and internal circumstances?
It can be, for sure. When you're in touch with love, you find that you just want to do it. Because we can be in service from the wrong place. We can be in service just to make a buck, rather than really genuinely wanting to help people. Once I found my heart, and I was heartless for a long time because I was a businessman and I'd closed up so much that I was out of touch with my heart. But once I found my heart, I went back to school and trained as a naturopath and a psychotherapist so I could have some tools to help people with. Because that's how love affected my mind. It made me want to help people, and it made me want to have the tools to be able to help people. Love is so beautiful. It changes your whole life.
The next question has been written by a viewer. Is having poor relationships with people due to karma?
Everything is due to karma. Everything is karmic. Everything. Whatever you put in, good, bad, ugly, it comes back to you. Karma is just how it is. And so because of my understanding of karma, I don't see victims. I just see karma playing out. Everyone's getting exactly what they deserve every moment, me included. And because of my understanding of karma, when something negative happens, I realise that it's just a debt being paid, and I have no problems paying my debts.
The next part to that question, I've been trying to find true friends, but it just never seems to work for me. How do I find people who are similar to me and are also seeking truth?
Yeah, good question. I don't... It is difficult because seekers are actually rare. You'd think they wouldn't be, but they are. They're rare. There's a lot of people who are curious about spirituality, and there's a lot of people who take it on as an identity. It's a part of the ego's persona. I'm a spiritual person. I meditate once a week or something. Or I read tarot or something that makes me very spiritual. I do yoga. But that's not necessarily a seeker. A seeker is someone who wants to raise their consciousness levels, who wants to find truth as self, who wants to find freedom. That's a different type of person. And they're rare. And so they tend to be quite lonely in a lot of ways because there isn't that many people they can talk to about their favourite subject, which is higher consciousness. And so when I was a seeker in Australia, I had to leave Australia to find a spiritual teacher. I had to leave Australia to find someone who was further ahead. And I had to go and live in India, and I lived in America for a few years, and I lived in Italy for a while, and London, England, because there was nobody here that was that much further ahead than me. I had to go. Seekers are rare, the same as enlightened people are rare. So we've created a community here in West Australia of seekers, people who hang out together, who work together, who play together. Today is a Saturday. We have Siva on today. And so the community is working around the different properties and working on the internet, doing different types of jobs to promote whatever's going on. But it's all community volunteer. It's because these people know they're going in the same direction as each other. They can talk to each other about it. But this is rare. When I was a seeker, there wasn't very much around. A lot of lost people. So I'm not ever going to tell people it's easy to be a seeker. I don't think it is. You feel like a square peg trying to fit into a round hole. But there are others out there. Usually you'll find them hanging out with people who are awake, because seekers are attracted to people who are awake. Because someone who's awake is a doorway into your own true nature. It's like a big black hole that you can fall in and find yourself as truth. And so I went to America and stayed with Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh in 1984 and 1985, 4-month stints, because he was that. He was awake. And then again in 89, I went to India and stayed with him in Pune because he was awake. And the energy field around someone who's awake is something you can find clarity in. It's something you can find freedom in. It's something that can actually allow you to wake up. Sometimes it's called the transmission of the lamp. Someone who's awake has the energy field. You move into it and you're ready, and you find yourself as that. The transmission has happened. But there's also a lot of people who are just curious. But curiosity can turn someone into a seeker. It can be a beginning. The same as the wanting to get away from suffering can put people in touch with spirituality. And that can also turn someone into a seeker eventually. But seekers are rare.
The next question has been written by Brian. My only desires seem to revolve around finding myself as truth. If I'm happy being alone and I don't feel the need to be in a relationship, is this okay, or is it really a form of resistance?
I don't know. I'd have to talk to you a bit further to find out what you're up to, whether you're escaping or whether you're actually not. It would depend a great deal on your attitudes. There's nothing wrong with being alone. It allows you to see a lot of things. Quite often relationships are a bit of a distraction. But on the other hand, they are also wonderful for loving, and they're also wonderful for getting in touch with whatever belief systems that you have that contract you, because your partner is going to get you. People who are closest to you get you more than anyone else because you care about them. So you care about what they say, you care about what they think, you care about what they do, so they can get you. And so a partner or a relationship can be your best teacher if you allow it to be your teacher. But if you just get righteous inside that relationship and arrogant, well, you're destroying the relationship and you're missing the opportunity to have a look at how you work, how your mind ticks. Anything that contracts you, anything that takes you into resistance, it's worth having a look at. If you're lucky, you get together with someone you don't get along with so well, then they're really a good teacher, because they'll show you lots of things about you.
This is a random question. Can you talk about Sadhguru?
Nope. I've never met him. So I can't say much about him. I've studied a few of his videos. He seems to be teaching the Dharma quite sweetly, but I don't know anything about him. I haven't spent any time with him, and I really don't know. I lost interest in all awake teachers 22 years ago when awakening occurred.
Do you think our society is moving towards a collective higher consciousness?
Heck no. I do not think that. I know there's this understanding in the New Age world that there's a quickening happening, that everybody's getting more and more enlightened or more and more conscious, but there's no evidence of that in the world whatsoever. As a matter of fact, there's evidence to the contrary. There are not many people who are awake on the planet. And selfishness and self-obsession, greed, these things keep people in lower consciousness. What's required for higher consciousness is a mature person. Mature people can actually support higher consciousness. Immature people can't. And unfortunately, most of the advertising that we see is all about self and how we can improve self. We get taught victim-orientated thinking constantly by news articles and movies and series. We're not really shown in our world how to be a mature man or a mature woman. And it's only mature adults that can raise their consciousness levels. It's only a mature mind that will support enlightenment. And I just don't see that happening. It'd be nice if it did. I mean, a really good example of that is climate change. The atmosphere of the planet's being polluted, and countries aren't that interested in doing anything about it. This is the consciousness levels of the planet. It's just how it is. As an individual, there's not much you can do, but you can accept it, and you can have peace in that acceptance, because it's what is. It's up to you. Or you can fight, take yourself into lower consciousness in the fight. That's up to you too. I don't see the consciousness levels on this planet raising. Awakening occurred here in Perth 22 years ago. As far as I know, nobody else has woken up since. It's a shame. Plenty of people have satoris, they have glimpses. But for someone to wake up, the mind has to support enlightenment. And we just don't get programmed in a way that supports it. If you really want to wake up, you find yourself someone who's awake, who's willing to teach you. And they will teach you how to be mature. They will teach you the obstacles, show you the obstacles that are in your way. But it's not easy. It's much easier to be immature and unconscious than it is to be mature and conscious. The way of the heart is probably the most beautiful way, but that demands that you get out of the way too. It demands that you be open. Otherwise it doesn't work. You can't perceive love. It's so beautiful, love, but it has a price. To really be perceiving love all the time, because it's always here, one has to walk through the world vulnerable, open, no defense systems whatsoever, like you were when you were a newborn baby. When Jesus said, you have to become like little children to enter my kingdom of heaven, as far as I can see, he was absolutely right. You have to become that vulnerable, that open, and in that you perceive love, and in that you raise your consciousness levels, and in that you wake up. Thank you for Satsang. Good to see you brave hearts here today.